All right, guys, I want to go over this basic fire making video here to describe and to show you the proper ways to make fire. And the first thing I want to do is start with a brief explanation on how important fire really is. Um, Fire is a very useful tool. I mean, it's used for various different things we're going to get into in just a minute. But it's also very important to know how to do it and to do it properly. Um, and I'm going to go over with the setup that I've got here and do an explanation on that as well. And but the benefits of the fire creates warmth, it creates light. Both are very important for survival. I mean, if you're cold and you can't get warm, you're in trouble. If you're in the dark and have no light, that can lead you to be in trouble as well. So it provides warmth and light. The next thing that fire is very good for is cooking. In certain situations, no matter what the case may be, you know, we rely on electricity to heat our ovens and to give us light and to do all that stuff. But at some point, electrical mechanisms that we use on a daily basis may not work. If it's a power or a grid down type situation where electricity is not working, electricity powers everything. So you may have to actually get out into your yard or into the woods and make fire to be able to stay alive. The next thing it does is it protects us. It provides protection from predators. Fire can deter wild animals from coming close. They don't like it. And it can be utilized for signaling as well, for protection. If you're using in a dark situation or you're trying to signal help, a fire can be used for signaling. And then the next thing it can be used for, obviously, is tool making or bushcraft. If you're going to try to make a blade or you're going to try to make a tool, you have to be able to heat that element up in order to work it. And so even with bushcraft, fire is very important and a very useful tool. Now, here's the dangers of fire. And this is something that you've got to consider. Fire is no respecter of persons. It can be a very useful tool, but it can be very dangerous as well. For an example, if you're in your house and it's in the cold winter months here in Southern Illinois and you're cold and your heat's not working, it's not a good idea to go get some sticks and pile them up in your living room and light them on fire. It's not good. Not only are you taking a chance on bodily harm or death to you, but you're also taking a very high chance of destroying your home and everything you've worked for. Fire can be very destructive, so you have to respect it, and you have to know the proper mechanics and why to do it and when not to do it. An example that I will give you is there was a guy out west in an arid climate. He was lost in the woods and had been lost for a while. And he happened to see a plane coming in a distance. And he thought, oh, I'll get down here, I'll create a fire. They'll see the fire and they'll come and they'll rescue me. Well, they found him all right. He lit a fire in a pine type forest in an arid climate and ended up catching the whole woods on fire, and they found him burn up in the middle of it. So it didn't work so good for him. You have to be able to think about your situation, don't panic, and use good common sense, because fire can not only kill you or your loved ones, it can destroy everything you've worked for. So the next thing I want to go into is proper fire mechanics, also known as the fire pyramid. You have to have 3 elements for your fire to be successful. You have to have oxygen, which is all over the place. You have to have a heat source, which would be your lighter or your matches or your ferro rod or whatever heat source you're going to be using. And you have to have fuel. If you don't have fuel, you're going to cut yourself short. And it has to be balanced out right. If you don't balance it out right, you're not going to be successful. So those are 3 things that you really need to keep in mind when you're building a fire. So I have here some things that I've worked up that I'm going to start a small fire here for you and show you. The first thing over here is known as kindling. Now this stuff is very small, almost pencil light, pencil lead sized, and everything that I'm using here is from the red cedar tree here in North America. And it's one of my favorite trees to go to for making fire. It's got some pine sap in it, or cedar sap that is an accelerant. It burns very easy. Usually if you get up underneath a cedar tree, you'll find dead limbs at the very base, and they're pretty dry. One of the ways that you'll know if they're dry is when you break them or cut them off, they make a snapping noise when you break them. So that's important. So I wanted to show you here that I have very small kindling, and then I move up in sizes as I go. You don't want to put your tinder in there and light it on fire and then slap a log on it, because you're not going to get your fire started, and it's not a good thing. And then after it gets going a little bit, you have your bigger wood that I've used my saw to cut up here, and then you can start piling your bigger wood on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tinder bundle. Now, tinder is a good thing to carry with you all the time. You can also find natural tinder in the woods, and this is very small, light, fluffy stuff, and I'm using a cotton ball with accelerant, and I'll explain that here in just a little bit later, to initially start my fire. So I'm going to place this right here in the fire pit. I'm going to get my ferro rod, and I'll explain what this is here just shortly. But I'm going to use this, one of my favorite methods for starting fire, to ignite this tinder. Once the tinder gets started, then I'm going to use the kindling to increase and grow the fire. And you have to do it sparingly. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. So I'm going to ignite this tinder. All right, my tinder is ignited. Now I'm going to take this kindling that I've got here. This is really small stuff, and I've got about a handful, and I'm going to start laying this on. I'm not going to drop it right on this tinder, but I'm going to kind of hold it over so that the tinder, or the kindling here, starts to catch fire. Now, as you can see, this thing's starting to catch, and you want it to get good and ignited. Roll it around till you get all the little twigs started, just like that. Now, once that gets going, you can start to lay that down, and you want to kind of spread it out so that the fire catches all the little kindling. Now that's going pretty good. It's kind of a windy, cold, wet day. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to get the bigger stuff, just the next size up, and you're going to start to fan that out. And you want to get this going. Just kind of hold it. Now, you don't want to burn yourself, but you kind of hold that over and allow that. Now see, I dropped that down on there and it started to smoke. Now, this is where this little pipe thing, which is a blow pipe, you're probably so smoked out you can't see, but you can blow air in there. So as that's starting to burn and catching the bigger stuff on fire, then you want to move to your next biggest stuff. This is about pencil size, some a little smaller, some a little bigger. And this is damp, so you got to really not just drop it on there. And you do it a little piece at a time. Just kind of crisscrossing and laying there so you get plenty of airflow. You don't want to just drop a whole bundle of it on there. You want to crisscross it so that the air can get to the fire, because if you snuff the air out, your fire will go out. Now I'm just laying it on top of here a little piece at a time. I'm going to take my little blowpipe that I carry with me and give a little more air to it. Now you can see how cold wet it is out here right now, and it takes some time to put this together. So you don't want to be impatient. One of the things that you really need to understand is before you go to start making a fire, you want to have all your stuff ready to go. You want to have your tinder, you want to have your kindling, the next size up bundles, because if you do this and you walk out to go get more wood and this goes out, you may have wasted your one chance to get your fire at that time. So have everything ready to go. Be patient, take the time to do it properly, and you'll have a lot better success than if you're rushing and making bad choices with building your fire. So I've got all that next size kindling on. Now I'm going to go to the bigger stuff. And it's just as easy as just laying it like plain Lincoln logs here. You just lay it crisscross across there so that that fire will catch it. Some people call it a TP fire. Some people call it a mess. But it really works good to keep the air into the fuel and the fire into the fuel, which is something that you've got to do in order to have success with making a fire. Now, if you get to this point, you're cold, you're hungry, you're tired, you're impatient, and you go grab a big log like this right here. You grab something like this and slam that down on there, it's going to put it out. It's going to snuff it out. That's one of the last things that you want to put on the fire. You've got to have a fire big enough and sustained enough to get to the bigger fuel. Now she's starting to come along quite nicely. So I'm just going to keep adding this stuff, little piece at a time. Be patient. Make sure you're in an area where you're not going to catch the woods on fire. You're not going to catch your house on fire. You don't want to build this in your house anyway. Unless you have a fireplace with proper ventilation. That's key. You can't just, if you're in your vehicle shut down, you're stuck somewhere and it's cold outside and you start to get cold, you don't just go build a fire in your truck and shut the doors up, because you're not going to make it very long. It'll burn the oxygen out of the vehicle and plus smoke you out and probably catch your vehicle on fire. So it's not a good idea, but it's very important to know how to build a fire properly, and you want to have good success at it. And so while I'm putting this together and building it here to show you, it is a good idea to do studying on proper fire lay, the proper mechanics of fire, to know what you're doing. And it's very key to practice these skills. You don't want to wait till you're in a bad situation and then say, I can go and light a fire in the trash barrel with a lighter and some paper, but that may not be a realistic situation when you're in a bad time in your life, whether it be for power outages, road, you're stuck on the road, you're lost out in the woods, whatever. You really need to practice these skills. And it's a good thing to just sit around somewhere out in your yard or whatever. Practice making fire. Get good at it, because it can save your life. Something else this blowpipe is really good for, if you are have burned a fire all night long, and you go to bed and you wake up and your fire's gone out, a lot of times, depending on the situation, you can wiggle through the coals and the ash of that fire, and you can find hot coals in there. And you can take sticks and start to push those coals together, and you blow some air across them, and you'll see they'll start to light up and get hot. Well, you can utilize the coals from last night's fire to bring new fuel on and blow it into flame, and thereby saving your matches, your lighter, whatever that you've got, and keeping it for a longer period of time. So this is going quite good right now. I'm going to finish putting the bigger wood on there. This stuff here is about the size of your thumb. You just start laying that across there the same way. Now, nice warm fire. Gets the hands nice and warm. Man, listen to that meat sizzle. This is gonna be good. I bet you wish you were here having some. All right, guys, I want to go over the tool list here for making fire. These are some of the things that I always carry with me, not all of them, and I'm going to go over each and every one of them here in just a minute. But usually if I'm going anywhere in the vehicle or hiking around in the woods or whatever, I usually carry a small pack like this right here. And in that pack, I carry a lot of different tools for various scenarios that may arise, one of them being fire. And I want to go over these tools with you and go over the benefits and the kind of the drawbacks of each one, so you guys will have a better understanding. Excuse me. The first thing that most people carry with them obviously would be a lighter. This would be your cheap gas station lighter you can carry. It's a fuel-based lighter, where you strike it and you get the flame. You can see it. Most people carry a lighter with them, and a lot of times people put those in their pack, and they're very useful. The problem with one of these is at some point or another it can malfunction and leave you stranded if you're not careful. So I would recommend that you do not rely on something just like this all the time. They are very useful, but don't rely on it. But most people have that. The next one is a electric type fuel lighter, or it doesn't have any fuel in it. It runs on electrical current, and you can see when you pull that right there, there's a little arc in between. Now this is a rechargeable lighter that you can throw in your pack. They burn very hot. They're not as convenient as an open flame, but they will light your small tinder and stuff like that, so they can be very useful. Plus this has a waterproof casing. It's supposed to be very waterproof, and that could be a good option also to carry with you. Now I generally carry both of those in my pack. Now something that I'm going to next is your matches. A lot of people have matches, and they are very good to keep with you. I would recommend some storm matches, so to speak, than your just regular kitchen matches, but they're good to have around. The problem with these is they can run out, they can get wet, which right now it's spit and rain, but they're very good, but don't rely on them, because they can leave you in a pinch if you're not careful. So this is something that I would recommend that you could carry a few of them. And if you do carry matches with you, whether it's stormproof matches or kitchen matches or just paper matches, it's always good to have a backup striker, because the strikers on these can get damaged and then not work out properly. So, and they do have matches that are strike anywhere matches, which I recommend, if you can get those, to get a strike anywhere matches. But it's always good to carry one of these along with that, just for extra safety. Now, I don't carry kitchen matches. I do carry some what they call storm or waterproof matches, emergency matches, which are dipped in wax or a special coating to keep them from getting wet. And I usually carry about 3 or 4 of them in my pack, just so if my lighter don't work or my electric lighter don't work, I have another option to fall back on. And that's very key to understand. You want to be able to make fire when you need it. So the next thing that I want to go to is your solar type starting a fire. Now, most of you know what that is. And this thing is something that I usually carry in my pack. And this is basically, it's called a fire lens, but it's really just a magnifying glass. Just a small round glass magnifying glass. And most kids throughout their life have played with focusing the sun through a lens and burning paper or whatever. These things can really be a great option to carry with you. Now, this is a heavier piece, so and it only works when the sun's shining. Like right now, it's cloudy, it's spitting rain, the sun's not shining. This would really do me no good if I had to have a fire right now. But it's something that I can throw in my pack and keep, and if I need a fire and it's a sunny day, I can start a fire with this and not waste my lighter or my matches and keep that for backup. So it's a good thing. Another thing that I want to go over is there are smaller versions. Now, this is known as a Fresno lens. Now, this is something you could pack in your wallet. It's very lightweight, very thin, it's clear, looks like a credit card. But it will focus the sun just the same as the glass lens will. It's a piece of plastic. They don't last near as long as the glass ones, but you could throw this in your pack. It takes up hardly no room, weighs nothing, and it is a good backup to carry with you. I carry one in my wallet and I carry one in my pack, and it is a Fresno lens, and they come in various sizes. The next thing that you can use, and some of the old timers know this, a lot of the younger people may not, is a pair of glasses specifically for reading. Cheater glasses. If you have a sunny day and you have one of these in your pack, you can utilize this to focus the sun on your tinder or whatever, and get a spark to go and ultimately get a fire with just a pair of cheater glasses. So some people don't carry them because they don't need them, but there are another option that most people don't think about. So I wanted to go over that with you. The next thing that I want to go over with you is, in my opinion, one of the most important tools to carry with you at all times. Whether it's in your pocket, whether it's in your bag, whether it's in your truck, this is a great option, and it is known as a ferro rod. Now, they come in various sizes. This is a keychain type version ferro rod that you can carry with you. But really what it is engineered flint and steel. Now, the purpose of this is it doesn't matter if it gets wet. It doesn't matter if it's cold or if the sun doesn't shine. And it throws out a couple of 1,000-degree sparks. Now, I'll give you an example here. You can set this down, and you take your sparker that comes with this. Most of them have a striker with it. And basically, you hit this rod right here, and you can see how much hot, that one's still glowing. It kicks out a really hot spark, and it's really good because you don't have to worry about this running out of fuel. You don't have to worry about whether the sun's shining. You don't really have to worry about it whether it's wet or not. It works, and it is a good backup to carry with you. And I recommend, out of all these things, if you carry anything, a ferro rod, a good quality ferro rod, is very important. Like I said, they come in various different sizes, and I'll show you an example of how it works here in just a little bit. But that's a big one, and then you have, this is a keychain version right here. It's small, you can unscrew it. It has the rod right there, the striker is right here. You unscrew this, Now this is a smaller striker, but it does the same concept. And you can put this on a keychain, keep it in your pocket, keep it in your truck, and they're very useful. So I would recommend highly that of all the things that you carry, and I recommend carrying multiple different ways of starting a fire, this would be probably the number one that you should be carrying with you. Okay, some other tools. I usually always carry a multifunctional knife. This is my favorite knife. This is a Swiss Army knife, and I carry it on a carabiner. Now this carabiner, for clipping on your belt loop or whatever, it actually has a striker built into it. See there? And that little strike, if done properly, can get your fire started. Also, I wanted to let you know that if your ferro rod that you have doesn't have a striker, or if it's missing a good blade, for example, my favorite use is the saw on my multifunctional knife. The back of the saw is really good for kicking the sparks out off of your ferro rod. Now, a lot of people come to the conclusion that, oh, I'm going to take my pocket knife and I'm going to stick the sharp edge and rake it across that. Well, in a pinch it can work, but it'll damage your knife, and you want a good sharp knife all the time. So that's important to know. Some other things that I want to go over with, and one of the most important, other than carrying an ignition source, is carrying dry tinder with you. I went over tinder a while ago. Now, I always carry one of these in my bags, in my truck, and this contains basically 100% cotton balls. They're cheap, they're easy to come by, and if you keep them in a dry, small container like this, they're dry all the time, and when you need them, you can get them out. Now, you can rely on natural tinder like this, and you can see this fuzzy stuff right here is nice and fluffy. It's tinder. And this stuff is from milkweed, is what it's from. This is from the milkweed plant. This is from the stalk, which is very light and fluffy, and it catches a spark really well. And this is from the fluff that comes out of the milkweed pod. And you can find natural tinder, but if you're in a situation where it's raining, or you don't find milkweed or whatever, that could be a problematic situation. So always carry dry tinder with you. It's a good thing to have. Some other options are, these are pre-made tinders. It's basically just like a cotton ball, except for it has some accelerant in it. I'm going to show you how to light one of these in a minute. These are a good option, and you can stuff them in the jar as well. These will light even if they are damp or wet, and so because of the accelerant in them. So these are a good quality option as well. They're more expensive than a cotton ball, but they work. Some other options to carry with you. This is a little baggie, and a lot of people don't think of this as tinder, but tissue paper, just your regular Kleenex, could be carried, and if you tear it real fine and fluff it up, it can catch a spark as well. Another thing that you can use is a cotton ball Q-tip. You can pull the cotton off this, if you got 2 or 3 of them, and use that for tinder to strike for your ferro rod. Now, your ferro rod will do great, but if you just go and scratch it on a log, it's not going to do anything. You need to scratch it in something that's going to ignite very easy and catch very easy. And cotton or tissue or natural tinder or cotton ball. Another thing that can be used, and most people have this everywhere, is dryer lint. Just your normal old lint out of your dryer from where your clothes have been dried. It picks that up, and a lot of times it has a lot of cotton fibers in it. This particular one has sawdust in it because I work in the woods and cut a lot of trees, which helps burn even more. But your dryer lint can be put in a Ziploc bag or even stuffed in one of these watertight containers, and it can be used for tinder as well. It doesn't work quite as good as your 100% cotton balls, because sometimes you can get polyfibers from like nylon or your different synthetic blends that are in your clothes in there. They don't like to catch spark as easy as 100% cotton does, but it is another option that you can consider. and dryer lint is very cheap. So that's some important things there. The next thing I want to go to is some other tools that I do carry with me. Not everybody would, and I'll show you this here. This is known as what is a blowpipe. Now, you can buy one of these. It's very lightweight, very compact, but it really helps you out in certain situations for making fire. Now, you can use something cheap like a radio antenna, one of those extended. And what this does is it extends out just like a radio antenna does, but it's a hollow pipe that you can carry with you. And basically what you can do, instead of getting your face down right next to the fire, you can use this to blow into the fire to accelerate the fire, because it goes along with the rules of three: your air, your fuel, and your ignition. So, or your heat source. That's something that you can carry with you. It has its advantages if you have some hot coals and you don't want to waste your lighter, your matches, or whatever else to start it. If there's some hot coals in a previous fire, you can put them coals together and blow them back into flame. So it's another little neat option that you can carry with you if you so choose to. So this is a piece of fat wood. I carry one of these in my pack. It's always in the bottom. This can be utilized to make some very flammable small kindling that can be ignited. It is basically a piece of pine wood that is encrusted with the pine resin, the sap, and it's very flammable. Now, it works really good if you take your pocket knife and you shave little scrapings off, get them in a pile. You can use your lighter to light that. It burns a long time because of the accelerants, the pine sap that's in it. And you can even ignite it with a ferro rod. It's just a little more difficult, but it's something extra to carry with you. The next thing that I'm going to go over is this should be carried with you at all times. This is called Carmex, a little squeezy bottle. Most of the time it could be in your first aid kit. I carry it with me. It has a lot of uses other than just chapped lips. Obviously it's good for your lips. If your lips are chapped or if your knuckles are chapped, you can rub that on there. But this is a fire accelerant. And if you put a little bit of this, or Vaseline works as well, but this is already, you can buy these at the store. It's in a little tube. It's ready to go. You just throw it in your bag, and it's a good thing to carry with you. You can utilize this for not only your lips, like I said, but if you put some of this, a little bit of this in a cotton ball, and you massage that into that cotton fibers, when you ignite it, you have extended the flame on that cotton ball by anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the situation. A regular cotton ball, if you just take a regular cotton ball and you ignite it, it's going to burn up pretty quick. But this will extend the life of that flame, and that may be the very thing that can help you in a bad situation to get that fire that you desperately need. So it's something, and it's a multi-use. A lot of things that you need to carry with you are multi-use items. And not only can it be used for, skin, you could put it on a cut to keep it protected. You can use it for your high carbon knives. If you don't want them to rust, you can put a little of this on your knife and keep it from getting the elements on it. You can use it for a lubricant for a friction fire, which I haven't got to yet. But it's just another little good thing to talk about. Two other ways of lighting fire that I'm not going to get into today, and they're more, they take more knowledge, they take more skill level, is chemical reactions. There are chemicals that you can buy and keep with you in small amounts. When mixed properly, they will self-ignite, kind of like a match. It has the certain chemicals. When you get the striker, which is your certain chemical, and rub it against the chemical on the end of the match, that creates a chemical friction fire. And there are some elements that you can carry with you and mix them together, and they will self-ignite. I'm not going to go into those right now because a lot of people don't want to mess with dealing with something like that. The other way is probably one of the toughest, is known as a friction fire. Now, this is the old Boy Scout method where a lot of people say rub sticks together, so to speak, to create friction, to create heat or a coal and then to blow that into flame. It is possible to do. In this area, in this neck of the woods, it is very tough to do. We are in a humid climate, a moist climate, and it can be tough. And it's not something that you're just going to go out and just grab a couple sticks and throw it together and make it work. It takes practice, it takes skill, it takes know-how. You got to know the proper woods to be able to do it. You got to know the proper techniques to make it work properly. It can be done. And it's an important skill to know, because in a situation where you have nothing, if you have the know-how to do it, you can create a fire. But I'm not going to go into that today. So the next thing that I want to go over, we've been going over tools for ignition. But one of the other things that's very important is fuel. Tinder is a fuel, but you have to be able to have fuel in order to make fire and to keep fire going. So you're going to need some tools to carry with you, whether it's at your home, whether it's in your vehicle, now these tools won't necessarily fit in this pack, but if you have a bigger day pack, some tools to carry with you are very important to making fuel for a fire. One of them would be an axe. Now this is a Fisker's axe. This is called a splitting / chopping axe, but it's lightweight for the most part. It's small, it's compact, but when you have bigger pieces of wood such as this right here, you can't just take and just throw that in there and throw a cotton ball on it and expect it to light. It's not going to work. So you have to be able to create fuel. An axe is a good way to do that. You can use this to chop down a tree if you need to. Green trees don't work good, but if you can find a dead tree, you can use it to split that wood and bust it up into smaller pieces for fire. So it's a good thing to keep with you in your truck. It's a good thing that you can throw it on your pack if you got a big enough pack. And it's an important tool. Not only can it be used to chop wood, you can use it for a hammer, you can use it for protection. It's just a good all-around balanced tool to keep with you always. Another option that a lot of people carry, and I personally like, I use these all the time, would be this is known as a jerk saw. This is small and lightweight. You can carry this on a backpack, and you can saw, and I'll give you an example here. I cut this limb off a while ago with about 4 or 5 pulls, and it's about 2 inches across there. So you can saw up and buck up a lot of limbs with a jerk saw. They can be from very inexpensive all the way to very expensive, depending on what you have. But this is another option, and this can help you get the fuel that you need to keep your fire going and build your fire. So that's another option. Another option, obviously, is you want to carry a fixed blade knife. I carry a small fixed blade knife. I carry a big fixed blade knife, but a cutting edge is very important when you're trying to get fuel. You can use this to feather a stick. In other words, you just take and cut into the wood and get some places up on it where it'll catch fire easier. You can use this. It's a good thing to carry for making fuel for your fire. And then something else that's good to carry, if you're going to be using a jerk saw like this thing, it is a good idea to carry some form of hand protection or an axe, either way, because getting firewood and using this jerk saw can be rough on your hands. And this thing over here is sharp. You do not want to mess around with it. It's not a toy. It will cut you with one little bump all the way to the bone. I know personally. So having a set of gloves in your truck or in your bag or in the back of your pocket, these are good things to have with you. Your hands are your tools, and you want to take care of them. So that's pretty important. Now I'm going to go into a couple of other things that I wanted to show you as far as using this tinder to start a fire. So this is a little tube that I have that I carry cotton balls, 100% cotton balls. You can see there I popped that one out, and you can utilize this for making tinder and getting your fire started initially to put your small tinder on, or your kindling on, and then work your way up to your bigger stuff, okay? So what you do is you pull it out. Now I compress these in. You don't want to use it compressed, so you take it and you fluff it up. You want to get as many of those fibers out to be able to catch. Now, if I was to ignite this, it would burn probably for about a minute and then it would be over with. But that's where that Carmex comes in. You can take a little bit of this Carmex, put just a little dab in it, it's cold out here. This stuff's kind of hard to squeeze out, but it's coming. All right, we're going to use that as enough. So, you got your Carmex put on your cotton ball. Now, you just kind of take and mix that all around in there. You want to get those fibers coated with that wax or that petroleum-based jelly that come from the Carmex. And you just kind of want to rub it around. Now, the more you put in it, the longer this is going to last. But for this demonstration, I just wanted to show you that this will act as an accelerant and cause your cotton ball to burn up to 10 minutes long, depending on how much you put in it, which can be very beneficial to trying to get a fire started. Now, so you can just sit that right there. Now your striker rod here, you can utilize that. You can utilize this. I prefer to use the back of my saw. I'm going to take this off to show you. My fingers will work. But I can direct that fire or that spark from this ferro rod that I carry with me everywhere. There's actually one in my utility or my multifunction knife that I carry with me all the time. But the back of your saw on this works really good for kicking sparks out. See there? So what you do is you put your ferro rod down there, you want to put it at a small, slight angle, turn it away, put that on there, and then you're going to pull the rod back. You don't want to try to strike forward because a lot of times you'll bump it and it'll miss. So get it close, you want to get it close, and you want to just pull it back like that. Now I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to show you here that cotton ball is on fire. And here I have a piece of paper. I don't know if the camera can see it, but I'm going to light this piece of paper on fire right here. See there? Now that cotton ball is going to sit there and burn like that for quite some time. Now I didn't put a lot of the Carmex in it, but now while I'm showing you this and this is burning, I want to show you one of the biggest mistakes that people make. They get their tinder going and they're in a hurry, they're getting impatient, and the first thing they do is they want to go and grab a big piece of wood and put it on that little piece of fire. Well, the problem with that is now you've just made your day a whole lot worse, because now you have snuffed your fire out by putting too big a piece of wood on a small fire. You cannot do that. And if you're in a cold, wet situation and you need that fire and you're impatient, and you throw a big chunk on a little bitty piece of fire, it's going to put it out because you're suffocating it. You're killing one of the key components, which is oxygen, to that fire. So don't make that mistake. It's a lot of people do it. It gets impatient and it goes out. The next thing that I want to show you is these little store-bought tenders. Now this actually has the accelerant, like your Carmex, mixed in to the fibers of this. So you do the same thing. You break it apart. You kind of want to tear it open, and you want to fluff it up where the fibers are all easy to catch. And the same thing. You can take this little thing, take your, where'd my rod go? Here it is. Take your ferro rod, put your striker on there, and now see, I missed because it's hard to do. There we go. Now it's ignited. Now these store-bought tenders, you can find them at different places. These will burn for quite some time. They got a lot of that petroleum-based accelerant in them, and they will sit and burn quite a long time. In fact, they're so impregnated that if you drop them on the ground or in a little puddle of water, you can usually get them, shake them out, and it will go ahead and strike anyway. So the same thing with your natural tinders. You can do that to ignite your fire. If you know what you're looking for, if you're on the road and you're traveling and you know you're going to have to make a fire later on, you can pick this stuff up and start stuffing it in your pocket. It'll help dry it out by being in your pocket, and as you go, you can get a lot of this gathered up, and then when you need it, you can pull it out, get it situated, and ignite that. That tinder is still going. So anyway, these are some of the tools to consider, and I'm going to bring the camera in a little close here in just a minute where you can get a closer eye on these things. And these are some things that you may want to consider to carry with you, whether it's in your vehicle, in your pockets, in your little backpack or your little handbag at home, because fire is that important. All right.